Hey guys, Gael here, and today I'm going to show you how I make stingers or transitions for Streamlabs OBS or OBS Studio. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is that I understand that not everyone will have time to learn how to make them. So if you're just looking for stingers, transitions for your streams, you can go to gumroad.com/getlevel. I have a pack with about 25 different transitions that you can download and use on your streams. They're pre-made, they're made specifically for streamers. Now, with that being said, I would like to give you basic knowledge about the transitions and how they work. I know we have Photoshop open right now, but we're not going to do the stingers in Photoshop. We're actually going to do them in Adobe After Effects, but I just wanted to have that little talk with you first. So what is a stinger? What is a transition? How does it work? So in my experience, at least, a stinger is basically a video that is played on top of all of your scenes and in between a scene change. Now, why do I have Photoshop open? Is to explain to you the basic principle of how they work. So let's create a line here, and this is going to be time. So now the first thing that you need is to have a short transition, because you don't want it to be an eyesore for your viewers. You don't want them to always have to wait 5 seconds before every scene transition, basically. So this bar right here is going to represent time. So of course it's gonna start at 0. So this is the stinger right here. Okay, so it's gonna start at 0, and here in the middle we're gonna add something that's gonna be the transition point. So this is gonna be 0, and let's say this is like half a second, and this is gonna be 1 second. So 0 is gonna represent the moment that you click to switch the scene. Basically, when you're on a scene and you click on another scene. 0.5 is going to represent what it's called the transition point, and 1 will be once the whole transition animation is over. The way the transition works is that this is going to be your first scene in time, basically. So when you click on the transition, you will still have this playing, right? And that's the scene you're already on. So there will be a little delay between when you click and when you actually switch scenes, since you have a transition playing. And here is going to be your second scene. So that's the scene you clicked on. So that's scene 1, and that's scene 2. Now what's missing? The transition. How does it play in time? And now you have your transition. I'm just gonna put T. So when you click here, transition starts playing, and then right here you have the transition point. This is a very important part. This right here, because this is exactly when the scene is going to switch. And that's the whole point of a transition. It's to make the switch from this scene to this scene more smooth and more colorful and beautiful, basically. If you didn't have the transition, this would just be a cut. Okay, now let's talk about transparency. So if you were to play a normal video on top of every scene, basically it would be a cut here, because something would start playing on top of this scene, and then it would still be on top of this scene, and then at the end of this video it would cut back to this scene, which would not make the transition smoother between these two scenes. It would just play something on top of it, and it wouldn't look good, which is an option that you have actually. Now the cool thing you can do is actually add transparency. So basically the animation will play on top of the scene, and you'll still be able to see a little bit of that scene, and then in the middle you want that to be completely opaque. Basically you want the opacity to be at 100% here, and then transition out. So let's say that yellow represents transparency. You would want it to be like that. So I'm not sure if you guys got all of this, but that's fine. I'm gonna show you how we can do something in After Effects. So right now, the whole transparency thing. So basically your transition is going to be a video file that doesn't last too long, around 1 second, but that has transparency, except for the transition point where you actually need it to be covering the whole screen. And then it can restart being transparent, revealing the second scene. All right, that being said, I'm gonna be using Adobe After Effects to show you an example. So now that you understand exactly what a transition is, you know that if you don't have Adobe After Effects, it's completely fine. What you need is any editing software that will allow you to export a transparent image. So if you already have another editing software, just look up on Google if you can how to export video files with transparency. Okay, so we're here in After Effects. This is not an After Effects basics tutorial. If you don't know anything about After Effects, you shouldn't start by learning how to do transitions. You should probably start with the basics, explaining where everything is and all of that. And that's not my responsibility. So go on YouTube, type After Effects basics, first, or you can go to videocopilot.net. They actually have the best tutorials. It is pretty much where I learned 80% of what I know about After Effects. Anyway, so to you, experienced After Effects user, click New Composition or just click Control N, and you want this to be the size of your canvas, the size of your screen, the size of your stream, basically. So that's gonna be 1080p by 920. Wait, 1080p by 920. So this is gonna be 920 by 1080p. That's basic 1080p stuff. Depending on what you stream at, I like to put it 60 FPS because it looks good, but for the purpose of going faster, I'm gonna keep it at 30 FPS. So here is the duration of your whole composition. So here you're gonna have hours, minutes, seconds. Remember we said we want it to last 1 second. So we're gonna type 0, 1 and keep the background whatever color. Boom. Okay, now we have a composition that lasts 1 second and nothing on it right now. So in order to have this grid to let you know what is transparent or not, remember transparency is the key. You can click right here, toggle transparency grid. So if you have 0 layers, it's a good way. If you click on it, it'll show a black background, but it's actually transparent. So I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna create an object. I'm gonna pick the rectangle tool here, and I'm just gonna click and drag. Create a random thing that's gonna fill the screen. I'm gonna click on the fill here, and I'm gonna give it a color. Oh, bright. All right, so now that we have this thing, basically in the middle, around the middle, you want to be your transition point. Keep in mind, transition point is the most important thing. So right now, the little F's near the number is the frames. Remember, our composition is 30 frames per second. That means that we have a total of 30 images, basically. So right here, we want half of 30 to be our transition point. That's gonna be straight in the middle. It doesn't have to be straight in the middle, but it's better when you're creating it because it's easier to remember. You can just cut the number of seconds in half and have your transition point. So right here, I'm gonna place a marker. You can just drag and drop a marker. So I know that here is going to be my transition point. So at this point, I want this transition to fill the whole screen. It has to start by being transparent, and it will slowly move in, fill the screen, and then go away, no matter what the effect that you choose to do. So basically, if I were to make the most basic transition in the world, I would have this be here, okay? So at the beginning, it would be here, so it's transparent. In the middle, I would have it be here, so it covers the whole screen. And then at the end, I would have it be off screen again, right? So let's try to do that. The way to do that is by keyframes, for example. So I'm gonna press P, I'm gonna select this layer, I'm gonna press P. It's gonna bring up my positions. So I'm gonna go to the beginning, I'm gonna click on the keyframe. When you activate keyframes, anytime you move it, it's basically gonna adjust keyframes, and it's gonna create new keyframes if you move in time. So first keyframe, this is gonna be here. Now, if I move to the middle, remember we wanted to fill the screen. Actually gonna keep it straight. I'm gonna press the end button on my keyboard to get to the end of the composition, time-wise, and this. So if I play it back, that's a transition. And that's how easy you can make transitions. Of course, if you're a better animator, if you practice animation, there are curves and all of that. For example, I'm gonna click on this keyframe, I'm gonna right click and make it a little smoother. I'm gonna go on easy ease. Basically, it's supposed to slow down a little bit when it gets to the middle and then slowly go back out. So that's already smoother in the eyes, basically. All right, now let's say that we don't like this transition at all. I'm gonna re-click on the that time stopped. That means all of my transitions are now completely erased. All right, I'm gonna do something that looks a little cooler. So I'm gonna click my pen tool and I'm gonna create a mask. I'm gonna make sure that a layer is selected, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm creating a mask. Tool creates a mask and not another shape. I'm gonna go here. So it's funny because I don't know if you guys watch my graphic design live streams. I always say, if you do anything diagonal, it's gonna look futuristic, and that's pretty much what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna create one mask that's gonna hide basically one side, like this, right? So I only have this side. All right, now I'm gonna go to my layer, I'm gonna duplicate it. Okay, so I have two of the same. I'm gonna click I'm gonna press M on my keyboard to bring up the mask values, and I'm gonna click inverted. So basically right now we have one mask for one side, another mask and another layer for the other side. I'm gonna go to my transition point because technically right now is when it fills the screen. I'm gonna add a keyframe on the position right now because I'm gonna move them away basically to make a more traditional looking transition. So I'm gonna click on this, I'm gonna press P. Now I see the position. So I'm gonna click on the stopwatch. Okay. So right now I know that in the middle at my transition point, it looks like that the frame is full basically. And I'm gonna go to the beginning. I'm gonna press V, the move tool basically, and I'm gonna move this. Oh, they're both selected. Are they both selected? Oh, I had the wrong thing selected. Now this is the left one. I'm gonna press enter to actually name it. Now I'm gonna click on the left one. Gonna drag it out. Okay, not too far away because it's useless to have movement happening outside the frame. And I'm gonna drag that out. So if I go on my timeline right now, this is basically doing this. Now I could go at the end and animate the same thing, but I'm gonna press the lazy button and I'm gonna copy this, select one, Control C, and then Control V. Select this keyframe, Control C, Control V at the end. Basically the values of this keyframe are values that you can actually see here, right? If I move this, you see how the values change. You can do this. You can also type in manually. It will also create a keyframe. So right now, basically it goes in, it goes out. Now, if we actually play it in real time, it's looping. It doesn't look too good, right? Because it's just moving at the same speed. It comes and it goes and it's abrupt. So what I'm gonna do is select those two keyframes and we're gonna add a easy ease. All right, so now it should be a little smoother, but we're gonna modify it to make it even more smooth. All right, so I'm gonna go here, and here you have the graph editor, and those are the curves for the animation. So right now it starts a little fast, and then the speed goes down, and then picks up again to separate. I've never explained this before, so cut me some slack, please. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just select this and make it go really fast at the beginning and then really slow down to get to our transition point. Like this. And same thing, it's gonna slowly go back, pick up speed, and then move out of frame to full transparency at the end of the frame. So let's click on the graph editor again and look at what we made. So as you can see, the animation is much smoother. So to conclude and really show you the way that the transition really works, we're gonna add scene 1 and scene 2 to kind of show you basically to really demonstrate this idea. So scene 1, I'm gonna create this right there, and we're gonna make it blue, just like we have it in our Photoshop composition. So this is scene 1. All right, and scene 1 cuts here at our transition point. So I'm gonna Control Shift D and I'm gonna delete it basically cuts it and duplicates it. And I'm gonna create scene 2 right there, yellow, the color of our second scene. And I'm gonna drag this down. So I'm gonna press enter to give them names. So we know that here is gonna be scene 3. I'm also gonna use the Control Shift D, except I'm gonna delete the first part, right? So now if we play the transition, it starts with scene 2. So that's the scene you are when you click to switch scenes. The animation comes in, hides it, and then it reveals the second part. Press put it on loop. And that's how easy it is to make a transition, a stinger, in After Effects for Streamlabs OBS or OBS Studio, or other streaming platforms that allow you to upload video basically as your stingers. Now, the tricky part is that you need to export it with a transparent background. Let's get rid of those two scenes. We don't need them. They were just examples. How do you export a video with a transparent background like that? If you're using Adobe Premiere, I'm not sure it's possible, because creating video is easy. In a way, you can create video with your phone and use that as a stinger, but you're not gonna have transparency most likely with a video created on your phone. So I'm gonna show you my settings to export with an alpha channel, basically with the transparency. So we're gonna add this to the render queue. So composition, add to render queue, or Control M to render it. Okay, so now here in the render queue, in output mode is where the magic is going to happen. So the format is going to be a QuickTime. By the way, I strongly advise you to install QuickTime. In format options, you want it to be animation. So video codec, animation, right? Quality 100%, of course. We're gonna click OK. We don't want audio, so we're gonna put audio output off. And this is the key right here to transparency. So video output, channels RGB. You want to click on that and export RGB plus alpha. If we click alpha, it will just export with one color, just showing the transparency. It would be transparent, but it would probably be like a completely black video. What you want is RGB plus alpha. That means all the colors that you added, all your animation is going to look clean, but on top of that, transparency is gonna stay transparent. RGB plus alpha, and then you click OK. Now we're gonna export it somewhere. We're gonna call it Stinger Test. We're gonna click render. This is the part where my computer usually crashes. And now your stinger is ready. So I'm gonna open up Streamlabs OBS to show you how it works. Okay, we're here in Streamlabs OBS. This is my starting soon screen. And what I'm gonna do is add the transition that we just created. So I'm gonna go here on top of my scenes. And as you can see here, the little cogwheel, it says edit scene transitions. So here you have two tabs, transitions and connections. What we're interested in is transitions. I'm gonna delete my previous transitions. Oh, it's not letting me delete them all. Okay, cool. So we're gonna click edit this one. You can name it global transition, and the type is going to be stinger because it's basically the name for custom transitions. So in browse, let's find our video file that we just created. This one is here. Duration is the total duration of your stinger. So we're gonna put 1000 millisecond. Transition point type, you can find frames. Remember, it was at frame 15 since it was 1 second at 30 frames per second, or just time. I'm gonna put frame because we already know that for sure. In audio monitoring, monitor off. The thing is, you can actually add audio to those transitions, but I advise against it, because if you're switching scenes a lot and you have kind of annoying sound or it's too loud, it might be a pain for your viewers. Audio fade style, you can choose a way to fade out the audio in your transition, but we don't have audio, so right now duration should be 1000 if it's really in millisecond here. And transition point type is frames. It could be milliseconds, so in milliseconds we would have something like 500, which is half a second, I believe. So let's click done, and currently we have it as default transition. So let's try it out. I'm gonna click done, and I'm gonna switch to my Be Right Back. And that's how you can add transitions. You can make transitions and add them to Streamlabs OBS. Obviously, I showed you how to make it with just a plain color box, basically. But if you already have a background, or if you have a video, you can add the exact same technique and use that with the mask and make it look good. If you already have like a Be Right Back scene or a starting soon screen, and you have the background without it saying starting soon or Be Right Back, you can use that. For example, I made this for my good friend Viking Trash. No, I don't do commissions. Don't contact me for commissions. I don't do commissions. And it's basically a background with her logo on it. There you go. Okay, so those are the basic transition types that you can create with any editing software that allows you to export with the specific settings that I showed you. So RGB plus alpha. If you're not using Adobe After Effects, once again, look up on Google if you can do it with the program that you are currently using. And if you don't know how to do any of that and you own After Effects, for example, you should really look at the basics before even attempting to do transitions. Although it's not that crazy to try to do them. So please, I know I'm gonna get a lot of questions like, how do I do this with Microsoft Paint? How do I do this with my water bottle? I don't know. I use After Effects, and I just showed you how I make them in After Effects, and that's all I know. If you have more information on how to do this on other programs, please help the community by leaving a comment in the comment section below. If you have more information when it comes to file formats, because I didn't say that, but that actually exports it as a .mov file, and that's the file that I use for transparency. If there's another file type that you can use for transparency for stingers, and a program that will allow you to do that, please let us know. Please, if you have more knowledge than what you saw in the video, please share it with us. All right, I'm gonna put some social media up there, and as I said, if you don't have the patience or if you don't own any editing software that allows you to make stingers, I have a stinger pack on gumroad.com/GaelLevel that you can download that has over 25 or about 25 stingers custom made for Streamlabs OBS. So you should be good. If you don't use Streamlabs OBS, or if you haven't started streaming yet, I strongly advise you to download it. I will have an affiliate link in the description. If you download from there, I'm getting a little bit of money, and charity is also getting a little bit of money. So please consider it. Don't forget to click subscribe, click that notification bell, but also follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/GaelLevel, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. GaelLevel out.